So that is reacting. Magnesium sulfate is reacting with copper sulfate. I try to submerge the magnesium under the liquid. So we conclude from our results that magnesium reacts more vigorously with copper sulfate than with zinc sulfate. And we claim the reason magnesium reacts with copper sulfate more vigorously is that copper is less reactive. So let me state this another way in terms of the compounds. Copper sulfate is more reactive than zinc sulfate, even though copper is less reactive than zinc. And this has been confusing for many students that I've worked with, but I'll say it again. Copper sulfate is more reactive than zinc sulfate, even though copper is less reactive than zinc. And our claim, or our deduction, is the reason copper sulfate is more reactive than zinc sulfate is precisely because copper is less reactive than zinc. And what this suggests, or the next sort of step in this logic, is copper is less reactive than zinc because it prefers to be in its elemental state. So when it's in its compound, if it has a chance to come out of its compound into its elemental state, it'll be more likely to do that than the more reactive zinc. Another interesting side conclusion is because both of these reactions actually took place, because there was a reaction in both, we can conclude based on this, even though we already know this, that magnesium is more reactive than zinc and magnesium is more reactive than copper. How can we conclude this? Because magnesium displaced zinc and zinc sulfate, and magnesium displaced copper and copper sulfate. So magnesium wanted to be in a compound in a reacted state with the sulfate more than both copper and zinc. Let me show this. Okay, we got our whiteboard, so you know things are getting serious. So let's go ahead and write out these equations just to kind of demonstrate what I was just talking about. So magnesium metal plus copper sulfate aqueous reacts to produce copper metal. Copper comes out of solution and forms its element, plus magnesium sulfate aqueous. And similarly, so zinc, we're producing pure zinc element, plus. So again, because magnesium displaces the copper, kicks out the copper, and takes place in bonds with sulfate, because magnesium kicks out the zinc by itself, oops, this is supposed to be magnesium, and bonds with the sulfate, magnesium is, as we already know, this is just other proof, magnesium is more reactive than zinc and copper.